welcome again to the Wide World of Wargaming Age of Sigmar podcast. As always, we are your hosts, Alex, John, Garrett, and Jeremy. We are going to be going over the Lumineth book. Like we talked about the other week, Lumineth, they're not that fun to play against, I'll be honest, but Jeremy got 2 of the box sets, and he was nice enough to be like, play with an army that works. So just like he gifted me one of the tomes. So we have a few of the tomes here, and we're going to be going over this today. We're going to be talking about light elves, high elves, however you want to call them. But before we do so, John, as always, what's on your workbench?
Hey, how's it going, Alex, Jeremy, Garrett? Oh, good to see you guys this week. Few things on my workbench. Continuing to dabble at my Primaris Marines. I'm just down to the last couple models, and now that I have a clear goal in mind for when the new edition of 40K comes out, I know when I want to have all of those finished, because when I get my Indomitus box set, going to build those new boxes, the cool Headhunter dude, and I don't want to have any old Marines on my workbench because of that. So that's basically where I am. I also went over to my friend Sean's house over the weekend, at a good 4th of July weekend, and played a game of 40K using the new rules that are coming out, some leaks as well as the ones they published. And I also played on the new board size with a leaked mission. And the game was fast, brutal, a lot of fun. Basically, we did Grey Knights against Ultramarines, and we had a lot of fun. That's about it for that. Not going to get into a battle report. It doesn't matter. It is playing with half-printed rules and stuff you've read once. There was a lot of, does this work that way? This seems weird. Let's just do this,
I am curious how the new board size play.
Okay, so you might find this interesting. We were playing with what would be the classic Dawn of War, which is, each person in a strip along their long board edge. Well, the way the map is set up, it still declares 24 inches between the players. So it's not like we started closer together. It's just that our deployment zone itself was shorter. Now, the width of the board was noticeable. I think we would have normally had less interaction. So the way the game worked out is classic with any Age of Sigmar or 40K game is we had a game moving on 2 fronts, right? So he had a front against one of my fronts. I had another front against his. So it was a 2-pronged game. And because of the narrower board, there was a little more cross interaction between the 2 fronts than they probably would have been more separated on a bigger board. That was about the only thing I noticed.
That's one thing that I've been thinking about with Age of Sigmar that I think would actually be beneficial if Age of Sigmar moved to the smaller board size. And I've been
Which rumor has it we are.
Yeah, just when is the question. So I'm curious to see how 40K is going to play, because I was thinking about it. I'm like, just that, the 4 inches narrower here, whatever.
No difference.
But the 12 inches narrower there, it's like, teleporting shenanigans are less impactful, and you're moving from one corner to the next is easier to do. So slower armies are less punished. I don't know. Just something I've been thinking about, and I like the idea. I actually enjoy the idea of pondering a smaller board.
Well, yeah, and I'm with you. So far, I enjoyed it. Just basically a single game of it, and we'll see where it takes me for there. Now, because I have been getting a little excited about this kind of stuff, I haven't paid as much attention to the Age of Sigmar as stuff's been coming out. I, too, ordered the Lumineth set. I, too, am looking forward to it. And I, too, was looking forward to talking about it today, as it was supposed to arrive yesterday. But instead, my Lumineth set is going to arrive tomorrow. So nothing for me to see or look at. So
another casualty of COVID.
Another casualty of COVID. So that's pretty much what's on my workbench. Like I said, play some 40K, enjoy some stuff, and drinking where is it? There we are. A nice Stella tonight, just something light and easy on the palate. So with that, Mr. Garrett, what have you been up to?
Hobby-wise, not a whole lot. Doing a lot of reading and research with all the leaks from General's Handbook. Getting excited for Age of Sigmar again. It's a crazy summer. We got a new General's Handbook that will help hopefully reinvigorate the game, and shake things up a bit, and 9th edition 40K. So I'm kind of like, like I was hoping to play a bit of 9th before the GHB was supposed to come out in August, but I guess we're getting the GHB right away.
Yeah.
So I've been actually like looking. I got a couple of Stormcast models from a buddy of mine to help with my living city, and I've actually been looking at going full-blown Stormcast with the new points drops that are released for Stormcast. So I've been playing around with a bunch of lists with that, and just honestly just doing a lot of reading and researching, getting pumped for the new GHB. So other than that, not a whole lot. Just kind of relaxing and getting ready for what's to come. And I'm drinking, I don't know if I've talked about the Busky cider that they're down in Richmond. I ordered them, and this is Ride the Current. It has black currants in addition to their apples. It's quite tasty. So, yeah, that's all for me. Jeremy, I've heard some fun things about you and Alex and Lumineth.
Yeah, let's just say that let's pause on that topic for a second. I am drinking LaCroix tonight because Lumineth have enlightened me on the many wrongs in my life, and need to enjoy more carbonated water.
He froze out.
Because they're sending me on the straight edge and narrow. No, I'm kidding. This army is fucking bullshit. We played that's my workbench, was that I assembled 2 boxes full of Lumineth. Not that unfortunately, still require a lot of proxying since not all the models are out yet. I will say that the kits themselves are beautiful. The spears are really, really fucking long, and I think everybody already knew that. It's cool that they're exactly 3 inches reach, which is what they have in the book as well. So that's a cool little homage to it. But there's not a lot of ways to like change their pose though. Like, it's not a push fit kit, but it's basically like there's only like one way to assemble each model, and it's 2 sets of 5, and they're the exact same set, 5 poses.
Yeah.
Same with the cavalry, the Dawn Riders, which are by far my favorite unit model from the release. That's why I'm trying to always sneak in 5 of them in a list if I can, because they're not exactly like they're good. They're just like, they're just better.
They're not as efficient, but they're cool.
Yeah, they're cool. We're going to talk a lot more about Lumineth later, so I'm not going to talk too much about the games. You can go watch them. They're posted on our Twitch profile, or my Twitch profile, and you will be.
Oh, you recorded them?
Well, they're always recorded for like a week or like however long they last there. And you can enjoy.
Okay, well, the one before this one was just not appropriate.
Glorious meltdown.
No. I had a meltdown 2 games ago. 2 games ago.
Yeah, well, okay, we'll call it.
The last one, I knew what was happening, and I actually rolled.
Oh, so you're saying you had 3 meltdowns in a row? One of them was really big.
No, I did pretty good. So turn 1 and 2. Oh wait, Mike.
We'll talk about it later. But for the audience, I still plan on playing Carrot on Overlord if I can actually go to any events this fucking year. And I'm excited for the GHB drop and see what it's going to happen. I'm really excited for missions. I'm hoping secondary missions will give KO like a bit more ability to win games other than, basically, do I kill you and did you sit on objectives by winning initiatives? Okay, cool. Like, maybe I'll have a shot. So I'm looking forward to that. I will say, though, it's looking more and more like based on the Lumineth book that Carrot on Overlord will have a very strong position in the meta, just because of how the last few books have come out. So that's something to look forward to. But Alex, what's on your workbench?
Only I could probably sell salt for some, I don't know. Fuck it. Well, right now I got the Lumineth Battle Tome in my hand as I've been looking down and, listening in. My workbench has been Necrons. I am basically pretty consigned to the idea of painting my OBR theme as my new dynasty for all my new Necrons. But the question is whether or not I base coat black or primer with then a Vallejo very light silver and then start going from there, or just go with a lead belcher spray primer and then just go from there. I made my first test model on Immortal just with the lead belcher, and I have 2 converted Lich Guard that I'm doing as well with lead belcher spray. But I'm starting to realize that the color is what I want, but it's also very dark model, which even makes it just difficult to photograph. So part of me is considering just doing more test models in different ways, so that the base coat with a very bright silver might end up looking a little bit better. Especially since, my OBR, they don't, one looks clearly like a very different hue, and it's because of the base coats, because the base coat for my OBR is all like Veysseire, for example. So, and iron or lead belcher is a very like dark neutral metallic tone. But outside of the workbench, yeah, we got that game in. We actually got the full game. Well, we did priority for round 4. Round 1 and 2 were great for me. As I concluded against OBR's armor saves or Petrifex armor saves or whatever literally don't matter when you're fighting, when you're going up against Lumineth, because Lumineth doesn't give a fuck about your armor save, because they're just going to do mortal wounds to you. So I thought, hey, what if I bring more bodies and just bring Nighthaunt? And sure, I have an ethereal save, which is worse than OBR, but again, saves don't matter. They don't give a shit about your saves. I'm going to listen to you. You think you have a save that matters against Lumineth. You don't. Just stop. Just stop. I know that you're thinking, Alex, you're wrong. You know what? You can think that. You're allowed to think I'm wrong, but the truth and reality is that you're wrong. So just go to sleep knowing that. But that being said, yeah.
So what I'm hearing is Chaos Warriors with 5-up saves against mortal wounds. They have a save.
Yes, exactly. So like, I would love to see how a Gloomspite Gitz army works against them, specifically Jeremy's list. I would actually be very curious, because you could put a bunch of bodies out. I still think that they would just eat through them, though. But you got to have some sort of specific regrow mechanic, I think, in order to really, really, really make it work. With the army, I didn't put my entire army out there turn 1. It was a variation of my Nighthaunt list. So I also was playing with units I'd never played with ever before. I played with Kurdos, the Craven King, because we played one of the new GHB missions. What was it called? It was called Forcing the Hand. It was one where we have not gotten leaks for the missions yet, us personally, but when you're on the Games Workshop website and you're pre-ordering the General's Handbook, they have a photo that you can just zoom in, and it's a match play. It is one of the match play missions that's brand new, Forcing the Hand, which is
cool.
Yeah, which is 3 objectives on either side in a diagonal format. Without you having the visual, it gets a little tricky here, but essentially in each player turn, you have to, each of the 6 objectives are worth 1 point, but when it's like your player turn or my player turn, the opposing player then tells you which one of their objectives in their territory is your priority objective, and if you hold it in their territory at the end of your turn, that's 3 points. So, I had a really good kind of turn 2, I would say. It was actually not that bad for me. He gave me first turn because he had way less drops. I brought the Shroud Guard as well as the Dolores Guard, the one that lets Hexwraith pass wounds over to the General on a 2-up, or be able to take wounds on a 2-up. I rolled a bunch of 10-inch charges on turn 2 and kind of locked some certain things in place, and I did okay. But then the problem was, like, there were some new hottish dice rolls, and like we talked about in the dungeon, I already know how certain games are going to go. But in the end, he did not have a lot of things left on the table. I didn't have a lot of things on the table. So I actually played more. I played it more successfully than I had with my OBR by like leaps and bounds with units I had never played with before. So by the time I called it, basically I had nothing in my back end that could protect my objectives, no matter which one of my 3 objectives I chose, and he could just double move tech lists and just score each objective. I had everything on his end, but we had no models left. So Jeremy had the Light of Ethereon, 1 cavalry, left from the cav unit, and then I think maybe 7 or 8 wardens, and a Cathalar, and Teclis.
And Teclis.
So he had like
Teclis is gone.
So he had like 10 or 11 models left in his army. I had when I called it, I had like 7 dread scythe. No, not the Herodins. I don't think I had that. I think I just had my characters. I think I had Dreadblade Harrow,
5 Hexwraith,
5 Hexwraiths, Dreadblade Harrow, Kurdos. All my heroes. Reichenor, and then Reichenor General,
right.
Kurdos, 5 Hexwraiths. Yeah, so we had like similar amount of models left on the table. I think you maybe had like 3 or 4 more than me. But at that point, there was just nothing I could do because there's no way I was going to destroy the Light of Aetherion, and I knew that I wouldn't be able to get certain powers off. So like the game was over. The game was over. But we were, we were. It was a better game than my OBR, and I think that my specific OBR list just can't deal with Lumineth, which means it needs to change. I was even considering, dare I say it, crawlers, just to see if you could snipe, snipe out the Cathalar. Because she's got a 5-up save, and she's only 5 wounds. And sure, like it's -1 to hit. Okay, instead of hitting on a 2-up, it hits on a 3-up. Like in this instance, 1 crawler or 2 crawlers is actually really great because, as we're going to talk about in this episode today, it's shocking how 1 model in the army that's not even allowed in every aspect, so to speak. I could be wrong about that. But
you are
one
wrong
model.
about that, but don't worry about it.
I am wrong about that. Okay, great. It's not like an Avalar or whatever. So 1 model in this army that's not even, that's a lukewarm profile, actually has several abilities, not only in its war scroll that are useful, but the innate abilities of the allegiance specifically spotlights the Calathar. And it's shocking. Because it's also shocking in the fact that it invalidates your army. I will say, and as I said before, we've witnessed Lumineth play certain games already. We've seen them on Games Workshop's videos. Our viewers have seen the videos that should probably be deleted off of Twitch. And and I mean, Garrett, you just ran a TTS tournament. The other day we saw that Greg had a Lumineth list. It was a Sentinel heavy list, and I saw that one of his games was just like a complete blowout against him. But it looks like he did pretty well against his opponents. And he brought a lot of Sentinels and not a lot of Wardens. So he brought a lot of the, a lot of the Bowmen and almost no Spearmen. So I'm thinking a 2-to-1 ratio for Wardens to Sentinels is probably going to end up what's going to be like the bee's knees. They are awful. They are a nightmare model to put together. I looked and examined the models that Jeremy had put together. I will say, for all of our listeners out there who are building their Lumineth, though, if you are so concerned that in transport or whatever, they're going to break off, you notice that a little bit before halfway up the pike, there's a little notch. There's a little design notch. It's not like a special little grip or anything on the model. It's just a weird little notch. And I feel like that's there almost like Games Workshop knew that it was too long, because I get the feeling like you could easily cut that notch because it's already a notch, and that's where it's going to break off if it breaks at all. And then you could probably just put the spearhead on there, and it'll cut the spear in half, which aesthetically might not be as appealing, but be convenient.
You just pin it at that point.
What?
It's so
just
hard.
Pin it.
No, it's too small to pin.
John,
too small to pin. I've already seen the hand. It's tiny little elf hands. You're gonna need a metrologist to deal with that. You're gonna need someone with the tools.
I'll give you some context for the audience. No matter what you're doing, because of Shining Company battalion or Shining Company formation, Venaris get those wardens. It's so hard to not bump them when you're removing casualties, where people are piling in, or and you have to be in base to base with 2 of your other models in your unit to be in Shining Company. John, get off mute.
John, you're on mute.
Get on mute.
I was trying not to make too much noise here.
You're making noises visually, and they were just such a pain in the ass to and I know there's going to be one guy to turn me. He's like, "Wow, that model's not in base to base now." So it's
you're going to encounter that
Shining Company formation. I'm like, Yeah, because like it got bumped. Like it's so hard to like maintain those models into like that. Like once they're actually in combat with things, like it's easy when you're in the game, but like the instant they're in combat, like their spears are just so obnoxiously long.
I'll tell you right now, playing so with Nighthaunt 2, certain Nighthaunt models are a nightmare to move, but at least you're not in a Shining Company. So like when we were playing our game, if like a Revenant got knocked over because they are spindly models, we could just be like, okay, well, it's 1 inch coherency. He was right there. It's not a big deal. But that's where it's going to be kind of tricky in a tournament setting because, yeah, you have to be in fully base to base. But now Jeremy moved one of his models and accidentally hit 4 of them. And now 5 models are out of their, exact position.
It's because they did something stupid in the rule. They added like you have to check if you're in Shining Company after casualties, when they should have just said like, because the way they worded it is you check at the end of every move, and after you remove casualties. If they just remove that portion of the casualty component, it'll make the rule so much easier to use because you'll be like, cool, like I'm bumping myself out of like Shining Company casualties, like, but then at the end of the turn when I get to pile in or and so forth, I can like bump myself back into Shining Company formation. But like, it's just, I don't know, it's a pain in the ass to use.
That led me to a conclusion real quick. Any sort of spell or ability that lets you remove a model, kind of like Teclis's Entomb ability, or Marathi's little stare down ability, is perfect against them because it'd be like, oh, let's see that one model that if I remove it, you're no longer in Shining Company. Oh, you're not in Shining Company anymore.
Just never gonna happen unless it's like midway through the game because they're usually in 2 ranks anyway. It's like it's hard to do it, but it could be done effectively.
So if you have your local business that has those little slots that where they're not separate models for each one, they're like all together. The little rank.
You have to get some. It just also makes it easier to like pick them up and like turn them around so the spears aren't facing your opponent because like it's impossible for some people to put their models in base to base.
Danger Garrett over there. This might be the best video ever. Dun dun.
We don't have a.
Dun 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 dun. Oh, and he survived. That's it.
You mean these ones?
Yeah, ones like those, but like in 2 ranks and longer.
I couldn't tell if that was like a line that breaks them in half or. Okay, no, it's good. It's just like on the drawn. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, this would help. This would help with ton, I'm guessing.
Well, kind of. The problem, is that the edge is too thick. It needs to be literally base to base for the edges. Like on the outside.
Oh no, the outside doesn't matter. It's all about the inside. They all have to be touchable.
Yeah, the inside's fine, but like I'm not gonna be able to get like one big one that's like modular for me to do this.
You will. I've looked them up. I promise you. I can send you some links later tonight because I was looking at some for my OBR. For totally different reasons, not base to base, but I saw them. But Lumineth, they're really strong, and this, of course, is what we're going to talk about today. Lumineth. Looking over the book, it is a pretty book. I got a little salty because I noticed that I didn't realize it. John corrected me, but I noticed that it's got some gold at the end. Oh my God. Okay, you know what? You guys aren't going to see that. We got some. It's got gold end on the pages. Apparently, Skaven one does as well. The special edition ones just have that. Yep. There's a lot of information about the story and all that, and we can go through that in a different time, in a different setting, in a different program. But the interesting thing is, and I didn't really believe it beforehand, and Jeremy's even mentioned it prior to us recording today about how it's not a full book, right? And yeah, it doesn't have a lot of units, but neither does Deepkin, neither does OBR. But really, I'm looking at Deepkin when I say that because Deepkin is a full battle tome, and they never made like a part 2 to Deepkin. But this one is heavily hinting at it not being a full tome. Like it gives you the full rundown.
Specifically? Is it just the number of units that makes you think that, or because
when you look at the story,
Oh, okay.
When you look at the story, of course, when everyone saw Tyrion or Teclis, everyone thought, "Where's Tyrion?" Right? And in the story, they start talking constantly about how Tyrion and Teclis this, Tyrion and Teclis that, 2 sides of the same soul. They specifically mention that a lot. Yeah. And then when you look at the map of Hysh, and they mentioned this in the article at Warhammer Community, but maybe they didn't name each continent in Hysh. But there's 4 continents in Hysh in the Battle Tome. Or, I mean, in terms of rules in the Battle Tome, but there's actually 9 different regions, not 4. So, there's Syar and Yamerica or whatever it is called, but then there's 5 more that are not listed. And then when you go into the breakdown of each kind of like the organization of how like a typical army looks like all the modern Battle Tomes, you go through. It's not gonna work.
No, it's on this. I can't really see it on that. There's effectively this page that explains the different like spirit temples of the Lumineth in here.
I'll do your one better. Pull the page one before. Top. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So there's like this little like force organization chart, which is like same thing as the Stormcast chambers. So this is just the mountain, the Alarith, the mountain people. So this includes the Stone Guards and like the mountain cows. And then behind is all the other elements, which is river, zenith, which is wind effectively, and river, water. Sorry, zenith, wind, river. So there's like effectively 3 more temples which have not been released into this battle tome. And I have a strong feeling that this book, and in fact, like it's not even called battle tome Lumineth Realm Lords. It's just called Lumineth Realm Lords. It's not called battle tome. So probably we'll be getting another like more compendium book after the campaigns get done and reveal like the other like basically units and so forth. But there is a lot more. There will be a lot more effectively parts of the army releasing at some point in the near future. Cool lore fact. So Teclis is dead. Like Teclis is just dead from the old world. Teclis in this book is, we're not quite actually sure what he is, because Tyrion actually wakes up, finds on Ish, is by himself, goes exploring, finds like the spirit of Ish in a sense, or the whatever the Selenar, and all of a sudden he wakes up and like Teclis is there. And it's basically hinted like he basically forged Teclis out of like Tyrion's soul. So this version of the Teclis isn't really Teclis, kind of like it's just weird. Like it's so Tyrion is actually the one that survived, and is technically the true god of Ish, not like in a sense.
Well, he's been split. Remember, they keep on mentioning two halves of the same soul. So I think that his body is like spirit or whatever was split in half, and one half is Teclis and one half is Tyrion.
It's just for all the kind of like, why does the elves get 2 gods? Well, technically 3, Valerial, but really it's just Teclis.
No, they get 5. You're missing 2.
No, they get 4. Malarion.
Morathi.
Morathi doesn't
5.
count. She's not an actual real god.
She's part of the Pantheon. She's even listed in the book as part of the Pantheon.
From the Pantheon. She's not part of the Pantheon.
Okay, she was banned after whatever, but in the Age of
She's
Men.
not the ruler of a realm.
Yeah.
Like Ilariel is the god of the Gyrin, and Valerion is the god of Olgu.
Yep.
And then you got, it's like, why does Hysh have 2 gods? I guess is what.
Yeah, and it's really just one god.
Joke's on you. He's just got a separate server.
Yeah. Which is they flushed out the lore a lot. I like the lore in the book a lot for Lumineth. They did a good job on that. They're still basically traditional elf 40k Eldar rule storyline, which is basically the elves are like too basically self-indulgent, and then all of a sudden shit happens, and then they're like, oh well, maybe we should change our ways. And that's the same lore. I did not remember reading a little too many pieces of lore in there about them and the Deepkin, because the only faction they can ally with is Deepkin, which makes no sense to me whatsoever.
Doesn't make any sense. Absolutely.
Yeah, because Deepkin hate Teclis, right?
Yeah, the Deepkin hate Teclis
completely.
And that's because he, tried to kill. In fact, well, Tyrion was Teclis tried to kill them. Tyrion was the one like stayed his hand basically.
He made a bunch of muffins. He was supposed to leave them in at 350 degrees for 55 minutes. He put him in. He took him out after 20 minutes and just left him there.
So, don't know why, but I guess I'll eventually find out why. But the reason why I find that's cool is that this is the first Order faction that does not have Stormcast as an ally.
Yeah, that was
Seraphon?
weird to me.
That's the first one.
Seraphon?
Do Seraphon not have Stormcast?
No, I'm pretty sure they do.
Let me
I'm
check.
sure
they do.
Not
Seraphon.
certain. I mean, I thought someone had said that.
The power of the internet.
No, Seraphon are able to ally with
I'm not going to see that.
fish. Yeah, it's not good. Yeah, no,
I'm
Seraphon
like,
can.
no.
Seraphon are able to ally with Stormcast. So
Yeah, so this is the first Order. And like I said, this might just be because this is not a full battle tome. This is just this like kind of like half release of Lumineth, or like a quarter of release of Lumineth anyway. Still no data today when the rest of the models are going to come out. We still don't know when Teclis is going to come out. It's probably going to be around Thanksgiving at this rate because of 40K 9th edition release. But I kind of want to take jump back into let's start talking about the units instead of like the book itself, and because this is a competitive game. This is a competitive podcast.
Well, real quick, I do find it interesting that they literally name off different things that aren't like different units. Like they mention like a whole wizard cast that is not in like a sub-faction rule or in like a unit rule. So they mention like several different like types of wizards that are Lumineth that are just like legit not in this book. So like
it's also like it's clear. Like the other thing too is like, so they have one of the big things like Lumineth have is in this release is there is let's see, Light of Ethereon, Teclis, Avalonor, the Cathlar, and the Stone Mage. So there's 5 heroes, but only 2 of them are not unique heroes, meaning that only 2 of them can be given commensurates and relics, and they both have their own table.
Great.
Oh, what's the third one?
the battle cattle, the generic battle cattle.
It's not a hero. It's just a monster.
Oh, it's not a hero.
As he furiously
Only
looks
one-
through.
The only one that's a hero is Avalonor, the special cow.
It's like a tree lord. Tree lords aren't
No.
heroes.
No, he's not even. Alan's Spirit of the Mountain is not a hero keyword.
Nope.
Holy
Not a
shit.
hero. So the only 2 models that can be given traits and artifacts are the Stone Mage and the Cathlar right now. And some of the,
He is a hero.
let's be honest, some of the artifacts from the Great Nations really do not work well with those 2 heroes whatsoever. Some of them do, but like some of them are like, hey, it makes this weapon like basically better, and you're like, they both have terrible weapons. This does literally nothing.
They both got bonk sticks. Bonk sticks don't get better.
It's just like it just feels like they were designed with other types of heroes that could take them, but that's the only 2 we get right now.
It reminds me when the General's Handbook came out with the Darkling Coven's Allegiance trait, and it was like, oh yeah, you can get this weapon, this artifact that'll make your weapons have like extra damage, and it's like, you mean my sorceress? Because you stripped out every other dark elf hero. It's just the sorceress.
Yeah.
Thank you, GW. My sorceress can get 1 extra damage on its 1 attack weapon.
So let's take a look here. Okay, we had mentioned in the previous episode that the allegiance abilities for Lumineth. We've already got most of them already previewed. We have the Aetherquartz, right? The one where we can use it at the start of any battle or start of any phase. We usually start with 1, but there is a nation that allows you to start with 2 for each person.
Start with, 1 for every unit.
Exactly, 1 for every
Unlike
unit in your army. The 4 different things you can use your Aetherquartz for are at the you can reroll save rolls, add 1 to save rolls rather. You can add 1 to save rolls. You can if you're choosing to shoot or fight, you can add 1 to hit rolls for attacks made by the unit until the end of the phase. Magical boost, which is either add 1 to the casting roll or re-roll that casting roll. and then Magical Insight, which is you can if you're a spellcaster, which they all are, you'll be able to cast an additional spell. Yeah.
The Stone Guard are not wizards. Neither are they.
Almost all. Which
is
and then
crucial component. But
exactly. And I want to save my least favorite for last. But then there is, of course, lightning reactions that we know about, where when a unit is eligible to attack in the combat phase, you can immediately select another, lumineth unit that is not yet attacked. So we know those two, right? We also have, and they actually have a really good designer's note. They do say that the ability applies to units that fight during the combat phase. So it can't be some sort of out-of-sequence attacks, which hints at maybe something down the line.
Combat phase and the combat phase, or during the hero phase.
Well,
Exactly.
they're basically trying to remove abuse, where it's like you use the Realm of Hish command ability and be like, I'm going to strike at the start of the combat phase.
Exactly.
And then, oh, wait, I have you guys strike at the start. No, it's like, no.
No, you're not activating 4 units. You're activating 3.
3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So with that being said, there is my least favorite one here, and it's called Absorb Despair, right? So there's that article last week where it was just like the Kalath, or it was the wizard, and it was like, do you know that Lumineth can weaponize sadness? So it says if a friendly unit uses its Aetherquartz reserve while wholly within 18 inches of a friendly Calathar, you can pick one of the Calathars within 18 inches of that unit and say that they will absorb negative energy. A Calathar cannot absorb negative energy more than once per phase. Now, as we mentioned with the Aetherquartz, something that I failed to mention at the start is when you use your Aetherquartz for one of those abilities, an additional spell to cast, +1 to your saves, reroll 1s to cast, or add 1 to cast, or reroll casting, and then reroll 1s to hit. If you use any of those items for your Aetherquartz, you are permanently -1 bravery for the remainder of the game, that unit that used the Aetherquartz. So you can avoid that if you're wholly within 18 of a Calathar. But then, if a Calathar absorbs negative energy, so if you avoid your friendly unit from becoming permanently -1 bravery, you can then weaponize that, and instead of subtracting 1 from the unit's bravery characteristic, you can pick one enemy unit within, not wholly within, but within 18 inches of the Calathar, and if you do so, subtract 1 from that the enemy unit's bravery characteristic until the rest of the until the end of the battle, and it can't be affected. An enemy unit can't be affected by that ability more than once per phase, which means that turn by turn you can stack minus braveries because of this mechanic.
Yep.
Yeah. Now, we have, I'm so sorry, yeah?
No, I mean, it just works. If you're going to explore that mechanic and you preface it, go straight into the Calathar, you might as well.
We might as well go straight into the Calathar. And really, for our listeners out there, when it comes to battle traits and, spell lores for the most part, a lot of these aren't necessarily going to be really all that relevant. You're not going to see a lot of them either. One thing before talking about the Calathar, there is a spell. Teclis knows every single spell. He knows all 6 lores from the lore of Hish. He knows all 6 lores from the lore of the High Peaks, which are the mountain lores, which means that we're also going to get a river, a sky, and we're going to get multiple lores here, right?
So he's going to know 24 spells.
Likely. I don't know what to tell you. But one of them is going to be, oh boy, Jeremy, you want to help me out about which one is the one that I'm looking for? The real bummer one.
He has 2 War Scroll spells. One of them is an AoE 18-inch 5-up shrug.
Permanent -2 bravery. Or -2 bravery for the time.
Its Voice of the Mountain is under the Mountain lore, and it's a -2 bravery during the Lumineth turn for everybody or every enemy unit on the table, and -1 bravery after your turn until your next hero phase during wholly applied to the table.
Hey, in our game, who is casting Crippling Vertigo against me?
No one.
You used it. Which one did you use?
Calathar. The Calathar War Scroll spell.
Oh, got it.
Crippling Vertigo is a worse version of the Calathar spell, because the Calathar spell prevents attacks. Vertigo just prevents movement.
Yeah, too bad. It would have balanced things out. So because Teclis knows, so this is how this strategy works, right? This is where we get that feel bad mechanic.
Can we just appreciate the Gotcha. Ah, fuck.
Yeah. So that is a gotcha. So ambush failed. Voice of the Mountains is very specific, and remember, Teclis is in this army, specifically the one that Jeremy was running. So this is why we think that this is kind of like a broken, what the hell was Games Workshop thinking kind of mechanic. Like, if you're playing Lumineth and you run this type of army, you will never get favorite sport or favorite opponent, because you're going to make your opponent feel so bad. Right?
Oh wait, I never get in anyway. So
yeah, well, it's fine. It's fine.
Play the fluffiest list, and I wouldn't get in anyway.
With Voice of the Mountains, it's casting value 6, successfully cast. You subtract 2 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units. That's just table-wide. It doesn't say table-wide. It just says you subtract 2 from the bravery for every enemy units. Then, until your next phase, subtract 1 from the bravery characteristic of enemy units instead. Which means that as long as you just re-up it on your turn, your opponent's just pretty much always going to be -2 bravery. Or -1. Not counting any sort of permanent absorb despair bravery debuff that they already might have throughout the game. It's really important for you guys to note that.
There's a bunch of bravery mechanics.
Yes. So, the Sincari Calathar, she's not all that, she's pretty sensitive to combat, right? She's 5 wounds, 5 up save. Bravery 7, 6-inch move. Has 1 attack that hits on 4, wound on 2, no rend, D3 damage. Very much like old school wizard from old battle tomes, right? She's got her abilities that are emotional transference. So at the start of the battle shock phase, you can choose a friendly Lumineth unit wholly within 18, and on a 2-up, they just don't take battle shock. Just don't take battle shock on a 2-up if you're wholly within 18 of her. That's really helpful. And if any models from your units are slain during that turn, you can also pick 1 enemy unit within 18 inches of the model, and that has to take a battle shot test. And if you do, you can add the number of models to that friendly unit that were slain during that turn to the modified battle shock of your enemy unit. So let's say Jeremy's playing John, and John has storm vermin that suddenly do a butt ton of damage. Let's say they kill
a prophetical example. Let's just use what happened in our game. You killed 7 Aurelian Wardens during your turn, and I killed like 1 Nighthaunt Revenant in that unit.
Yes.
1. I killed 1. And they were debuffed permanently by the Cathar because I used an Aetherquartz, so they were already -1. And then there were another -1 because of Voice of the Mountain been active during your turn. And when the Cathar made its 2-up save to make the Wardens ignore Battle Shock, I was able to push the 7 casualties to your Battle Shock test. So you were out of CP at the time, I believe, because you had to take another Battle Shock test. It was almost equally as bad, and you only had 1 CP. So you chose to not spend on that unit. But then, so basically, instead of Bravery 10 unit that's like, I lost 1 guy, I don't care about Battle Shock. Oh, you're -2? I don't care about Battle Shock either. And then all of a sudden, like, another, like, -7 on top of that. And all of a sudden, like, oh my God, now I care about Battle Shock. And that's what the Cathar is. It just makes units that typically shouldn't care too much about Battle Shock if they're not immune to it. All of a sudden, there's a risk like, oh my God, I'm going to care about this Battle Shock.
So that's incredibly annoying. so to review, you can, if you are the Lumineth player and you took way more casualties than your opponent, if you've already permanently debuffed someone's bravery and you've killed at least 1 model that neutered your unit, you can essentially make them lose so many different units without having to do anything. This is just an innate ability of the Cathari, the Sinari Calathar. Yeah. So it's just an innate ability that it has. And so not only do you have the Weaponized Sadness ability, which is free, you don't have to roll for it, you just have to use Aetherquartz for it. Not only do you have that, which buffs your army and immediately debuffs your opponent, but you also have this ability where when you take Battle Shock on a 2-up, you are immediately buffing and debuffing your your army and debuffing your opponent at the exact same time. To almost a more extreme degree. And in addition to that, they're a wizard, they know 1 spell, and their spell is the one that also kind of puts the icing on the cake. I would expect this army to see a complete change when their battle tome comes out, because this is just having 130
didn't like it because he felt too bravery.
No, Garrett, you're a third party here. Can you tell me how you feel about all this all at once? We have this thing. Darkness of the Soul is casting value 7. Pick an enemy unit within 18 inches of the caster until the end of the hero phase. Roll 2d6. The Lumineth player will roll 2d6 each time the enemy unit makes a normal move, charge move, shoots, or fights. If you beat that bravery characteristic, which has been heavily modified now, the unit can't perform an action that phase. So not only are you making them -2 minimum, but 3, 4, 5 bravery, you're also just rolling 2 dice against it. And if you beat that your opponent's unit isn't doing anything. It could be a Keeper of Secrets, it could be 40 more Tech Guard, it could be whatever. And yeah, how do you feel about that?
I mean, I have to agree with Alex here because I'm always in the camp of looking for rules and things that are negative play experiences. Basically, things that will cause an average player, not exactly a competitive player, a balls to the wall, like just a win at all cost player, whatever you want to call them. But the average player who's just like, I brought my, normal, I wanted to play a normal game versus this normal person. This kind of rule is like, I don't get to play. You straight up just made my unit not attack. I don't get to, you're not playing anymore.
You don't get to play, and if you kill something of his and you kill a lot of it to finally get some success after passing through their +1 armor save and their shrug, you now actually take the brunt of being in combat despite you winning combat because of their debuffs abilities on top of all of that.
That to me is actually kind of a neat mechanic. That one doesn't bother me as much. It's very much a gotcha, and you got to watch out for it. It definitely makes hordes a lot better. 40 Stormvermin. Oh no, I killed 7 dudes. You mean I gotta fail my battle shock test and lose 5 dudes because you killed one of mine? Yeah, Stormvermin aren't giving a shit. But maybe Fulminators. Yeah, Fulminators are terrifying. That just straight up ability where it's I'm at minus. So let's look at Fulminators, for example. Unit of Fulminators, they charge in. They have base set Bravery 7. You have a board wide -1 Bravery, and you gave them a permanent -1 Bravery from your Sadness debuff.
They're not Bravery 5. They're Bravery 5. Now they're 4 with your.
Well, no. You have a board wide -1, and you Sadness them for 1. It's 1 on your turn, Alex. It's 2 on Jeremy's turn. You really need to remember this. This is the 3rd time you've made that mistake.
My bad. It only was relevant when it was his turn.
So a unit of Fulminators, they get targeted by this rule. They pass a 2d6 less than 5. They're able to charge in, and then you're you just don't get to attack. So you have to roll for them to even be able to move. First of all, it's okay, I did get to move. All right, well, I'm going to shoot the ref. No, you don't get to shoot. Okay, well, I'm still in charge range. Okay, you made the charge. All right, now you just don't get to attack. It's just that's why
you do it when they pile in too. So great, you charged. Oh, you can't pile in. Sorry, dude.
Yeah. So it's just it removes someone's ability to participate in the game, and that to me will create a negative experience. And while it's and honestly, it doesn't even feel tactical. It's just straight up that unit is doing nothing.
Yeah, there are other abilities that do that, but they're spells. And if we're talking 40k, they would be a psychic power. But there's things in the game that make you have to roll before you take an action.
But those are still fairly limited. Aetherquartz is on a 5-up, not 2d6 beat a super debuffed bravery. Think for John. A unit of Stormvermin with Bravery 5, undebuffed. You just have to beat 5 on 2d6 to have your Stormvermin unit never do anything.
Yeah, it's the same problem of any destruction unit. Basically.
Yeah, it's
Most
just
Bravery 6.
Yeah, it's army by army, whereas demons don't care, right? It's army by army.
But you can. That's the problem is you can make demons care.
And you make demons care. My Death Army, again, he did it to my Bladeghast Revenants. Bladeghast Revenants, like every Death Army.
I did it to Kurdos.
He did it to Kurdos the Valerian.
Twice.
Exactly. Kurdos wasn't able to swing twice after successfully being able to pile in. And so Bravery 10 army, when you start making them Bravery 7, and they start rolling 2d6 against 7, and granted, it is a spell, which means you do have to cast it, but like we talked about in the last episodes, all you got to do is have Teclis there, plus the Haitian Twinstone spell, and sure, it's one Calathar that you can make it for one Aetherquartz once per game, or twice if you're the right nation. You can either make them +1 to cast or re-roll their casting, but they're already going to be +1 to 6 casting. In
most
addition
likely
to
+2 on all.
And they
likely
get an
+2.
artifact that lets them re-roll their first failed cast.
Exactly.
Every turn or once per game?
Every turn.
So on
Yeah,
average, they're probably going to be 3 to 4 to cast the spell.
So you're basically bringing those new decreased point Knight Incantors for a once per game spell scroll.
Yeah.
And that's like your only, or Nagash for his +3 on bind, but they're at +2 to cast. So you're like, I'm even at this point.
You have to unbind the Hish stones, because if you don't, and this is like what I'm gonna be playing with Teclis is the City of Zytrek, and every first cast a wizard makes in that army gets +1 to cast. So if a Hish stone that's up and running, they're basically +3 to cast. Well, every wizard's basically +3 to cast because the Hish stones are fucking terribly written.
We talked about this on the last episode.
We did.
Even if you played them in the less terrible way, you just use Teclis to supercharge that thing. Like, oh, well, you use the +2. Well, then Teclis casts a spell at 10, bumps it up to a 2, and then they just use the +2 again. Like, he gets 4 spells at 10. So it's just whatever.
It's the problem. It's that it doesn't reset to 1 when you use it. It resets down to 2.
That's my point. Is that we were discussing last time that, but the thing is even if you do reset it to 1, ignoring how it's actually written and play it as probably it was intended.
Well, it's probably intended to only used by 1 wizard per turn, not every wizard in a 12-inch bubble. That's because it's a 30-point endless spell, guys. It is basically, and it's predatory. It fucking moves. So it's just like this AoE better version of Arcane Terrain spell. And it was probably meant to be used by 1 wizard if they wanted to tap into the crystal. Not everyone.
Zyrek, or the Zytrek country, we're forgetting. It's not +1 to your first casting. It's +1 to your first cast, to your first unbind, and your first dispelling roll.
Yeah, I was going to mention the other half.
In addition to that nation also, all their wizards, which are all of them.
Everyone.
Wizard heroes get to cast an additional spell.
It's not cast an additional spell. They know an extra spell.
Oh, they know. My apologies. Know an extra spell.
I was like, no.
Oh, it's toned down. It's toned down.
They know an extra spell.
So one other thing that happened during this game, I got to say, you guys, I was not aware of the price for these endless spells. And they are so excellently costed. We found out today that the Soulscreen Bridge was the only one that went up in the Journal's Handbook. That's one of the generic ones that everyone can use. It went up to 100 points for some reason. But and I certainly wasn't using it.
It changes the entire makeup of some armies.
Okay.
Yeah, Cities of Sigmar were using it like candy.
Fucking Skaven were using it.
So I got to tell you guys, the Twin Stones of Hish, or the Haitian Twin Stones, we've talked about it for 3 episodes already. It is 30 points. For what it does, it is one of the most point-effective endless spells in the entire game. If you guys can name one that's more point-effective, I'd be more than happy to.
It's really point-effective because it's an army full of wizards.
It's an army full of wizards, exactly. But there's this other.
Even though it wasn't an army full of wizards, let's be real here. It's 10 points cheaper than a Balewind, and it just gives you +1 to casting every turn.
So there's another one where I actually got confused.
At bare minimum.
There's another one that I actually got confused with Jeremy because of the way he was calling it the runes, which made me think of the spell called the Runes of Petrification, which is 70 points. But instead, he was actually choosing to have the Sanctum of a Mintok for use in order to protect Teclis from any sort of alpha strike, whether it be a shoot cast or a KO or maybe a Lucky Deepkin player. I don't know. But when I was talking about this Alpha Strike, right, the Sanctum of a Mintok is 30 points also, just like the Twin Hitch Stones. And that's the weird looking one where it's got runes on the model. So like Jeremy was certainly not wrong in a description of what the model is, but it's casting level, it's casting value 7. You can set it up, and it's 3 different kind of long, semi-curved pieces that you put around the unit that you have protected with the Sanctum of a Mintok. And when you set it up with wholly within 3 inches of the caster and more than 3 inches from other units. So you kind of set it up in a halo around your unit, or around tech lists, essentially. Because quite frankly, you're going to be using this only on tech lists. I'm going to be completely real there. Then the second
on the Cathalar, because people figure out the Cathalar needs to die.
That's true. That's true. So you set it one Sanctum. The Sanctum is split up into 3 separate models. When you cast, you set the first one down wholly within 3 inches of the caster and outside of 3 of other units. Then you set up the other 2 so that the tips of the model so that the tip of each model is touching the tip of a different model from the unit or endless spell.
Yeah, just
each model.
Circle.
You need to make a circle.
What if you can't because of tech list?
And you can't set it up.
It's designed for him.
It doesn't look that big. It doesn't look like.
Yeah, that's what it says in the Warmer community page. It's like it's designed for him.
I don't know if he could fit there. I'm looking at the picture of the model. I don't know if that's going to be relevant. However, I would really love for his base not to legally fit that. So as long as the Sanctum of a Mintok remains on the battlefield, the caster and the Sanctum of a Mintok are treated as being a single model from the caster's army that uses the caster's War Scroll as well as the Endless Spells rules. So on a Calathar, you essentially make a huge footprint instead. It is treated as an enemy model by the opposing player. If the caster is slain, the Sanctum is immediately dispelled and removed from play, along with the caster. If the Sanctum is dispelled and the caster has not been slain, remove the Endless Spell and leave the caster on the battlefield. I like how they specify that. But
no,
here's the thing.
Like Balewind or anything like that.
It's like Balewind. But here's the real, the meat of it is just the final bit on the War Scroll. And it says, first of all, subtract 1 from hit rolls and add 1 to the save rolls for attacks targeting that model. So for 30 points, you can make one of your guys +1 save and -1 to hit, just immediately for 30 points and casting value 7, which is never going to be an issue for a Lumineth army. In addition, at the end of the combat phase, if this model is targeted by an enemy, by any enemy that attacks it during that phase, roll a dice for each enemy unit within 3 inches of this model. On a 1 to 3, nothing happens. On a 4 to 5, that unit suffers 1 mortal wound. On a 6, they suffer D3 mortal wounds. So let's remember, like for our audience here, for 30 points, this spell adds 1 to the caster's armor save, makes them -1 to hit. And if anything hurts it or gets near it, it can do mortal wounds. All for 30 points. Garrett and John, I feel like this is broken, you guys.
Why? It's really their
like response or lack thereof.
That's for my.
I mean, like
it's not that broken.
It's not that it's broken. It's just like it's ridiculous. It's just one. It's like it's just a tiny piece that's just like, oh, let's just add it on top of all this other absurdity.
I don't know.
Like you don't have problems.
I feel like that one's fine as long as it's not on tech list. The problem is it's on tech. If it's
it's on exactly. It's like if it's not on tech list. I'm comparing it to the Balewind. It's like, oh, the Balewind gives +1 save. And plus, it's like, but that's 40 points. And it's like, but it gives 6 inches extras of range, additional cast. Okay, this gives you -1 to hit and +1 save. It's like,
and it doesn't keep you in one place. You can move around with it.
Oh, geez. Yeah, so this reminds me of Petrifex. Like, why did GW toss both a defensive and offensive buff on the same faction? Like,
because they knew that the defensive the defensive buff, I can't talk, in 9 months wasn't going to matter because they knew that Lumineth were going to come out.
Oh my gosh. But like, why did they toss both an extra rend and a save? Like, why do you need both a -1 to hit and a +1 save and doing mortal wounds to people near you. Like, that's just absurd. Like, it's just not necessary. Like, the +1 save would have been enough, but no. Also a -1 to hit. It's just like...
And for the audience at home, I want to point out that, like, I haven't unleashed the full, like, fucking bullshit combos out of the book yet on Alex. This was just, like, my favorite one, which was the bravery debuff, because it's been, like, one of my favorite all-time armies from 40K was my 6th edition Harlequins, which used to do the very similar mechanics with, like, leadership debuff, and then basically making your opponents, like, units not move, or, like, literally just auto-killing a hero, which you can kind of do with the Lumineth as well, but it's, like, really for lower count wound models. There are some additional combos, because we're only, I don't want to focus too much on, like, the bravery mechanics. There's more combos in the book that are, like, very interesting to look at. And I know, I'm going to hear the peanut gallery, I'm like, blah! But a couple of things to keep in mind about the army. A, they're mostly all 1 wound models with 4 up save. Most of their mechanics only work in, like, in some extent, in the combat. Some of them does work defensively in the shoot, like Shining Company. Shining Company is an interesting mechanic, which, has a huge defensive bonus, which is -1 to be hit if you're in Shining Company, and the requirement is every model in the unit needs to be touching 2 other models. But you can't run, you can't charge, and you can only pile in 1 inch. Which, by the way, doesn't really matter too much for the charge mechanic, because you can break out of coherence and out of Shining Company formation during your move phase. Won't be able to run, but you can still charge back into Shining Company formation, or pile back into Shining Company formation. But it removes the ability to run, which a couple games we played, the 2 games we played, I'm like, God damn it, why do I keep going in Shining Company right at the start of the game? I can just run the first. It prevented me from running the first turn to get up.
You could run into Shining Company.
Right. But, I've also been playing Alex with the Nighthaunt second round. I'm like, well, he could just, he could take, he could alpha strike me if he wanted to a first round, but I don't, that's probably a stupid night. It's a really bad move on Nighthaunt's part to do that. And then there is the Alarif Stone Guard, which can basically, that's the hammer, the really silly looking helmet, horn helmet, that basically have the ability to ignore the game with ignoring -1 rend. So, and they are 2 wounds, but they are not wizards. So that's and they're incredibly slow. Like, we're talking dwarf slow. They're 4-inch movement versus 6. So that's a big drastic change, for a model to go. But they are like 100 points for like 5 models. So they're effectively affordable. But the things that make them what Alex is not talking about in terms of, let's ignore like these kind of like feels bad mechanics. If you just remove this out of the game for Lumineth, you still have a really, really powerful, like mechanically speaking, army. The battalions are phenomenal because there is no tax in them. They're all really well designed. The Aurelian Battle Legion is 2 Venarii Spearmen, 2 Venarii Bowmen, and then 1 Cathalar, which if you play Lumineth, even if they add more units and you're not playing the Cathalar, you're playing them wrong because they have terrible bravery. They're only bravery 6 for the most part.
Bravery 6 and 7 for the most part, outside of characters.
And so you need the Cathalar to ignore Battle Shock because you're not exactly a CP generating madhouse. And all the Venarii units are Shining Company as a Legion's mechanic, so they can all be there. The Bowmen are incredibly powerful. The Wardens are incredibly powerful, and that's mostly because they're wizards and they have the ability to do mortal wounds on 6s and a spell that buffs it to a 5-up. The Bowmen do then shooting. Bowmen can shoot out of line of sight in 30-inch range. Incredibly powerful once again. It helps you snipe at heroes. The battalion itself gives you reroll 1s, basically Mystic Shield for free, as long as they're in range of another unit from the battalion within 3 inches. So, hey, who doesn't like Mystic Shield for free? Then the Alarif Stone Temple, another great battalion, is one of the Stone Cows, one of the Stone Mages, which is that really funky looking guy, like basically balancing himself on the top. And then 1 to 3 units of Stone Guard. And the benefit from them is they get to reroll saves, but do not get to, I think they can only pile in 1 inch if they do that. But most Alarif units are never going to pile in, at least the Stone Guards, because of a couple other rules that prevents them from piling in, but they get an additional bonus. But having a 4-up save unit that can reroll saves, ignore Rend characteristic of 1, and also spend an Aetherquartz to get +1 save, all of a sudden you're looking at basically this incredibly tough like center unit, and they're 2 wounds a pop, so like they can kind of survive mortal wounds in mechanic a little bit. But I think what takes the icing on the cake is if you're like me, and Alex isn't really talking about it, there's another spell that Lumineth get, which makes a unit ethereal, which is ignore modifiers to saves.
Yep.
So making a rerollable stone 4-up save unit, they already ignore -1 Rend, but in case you're fighting something really deadly, like ignoring Rend and just having a rerollable save is incredibly fucking terrifying. Like it's hard to unlodge a 4-up save that's rerollable and ignores Rend. So that's another scare mechanic.
One and Shining Company. Oh wait, they don't get Shining Company.
They don't want to get Shining Company.
So I don't think it's nearly as effective.
Tectonic Force, which allows them, and this actually rule I dislike. I think this is a bad rule from purely perspective of gameplay, not from a negative gameplay mechanic as Garrett puts it, but as it slows down the game too much. Because at the end of the combat phase, you can move your opponent's 1 unit in combat over them away by 1 inch, and then you can pile in that 1 inch. But it's just like the time it takes to do that is just going to slow down the game so much. It's just annoying. They also generate mortal wounds on 6s to hit the stone, but they do not get a sun weapon, so they don't get to buff them up by any ways or another. I don't know. Like for me, there's just some mechanically speaking. You remove techless, you remove some of those obscene power ups we talked about earlier, and you just look at those units and their combos, just battalions alone, and that army is just phenomenal. Now. I've dominated the airwaves enough. I know my co-host John is looking forward to reading his. He's actually not listening to anything we're saying. He's just really wants to be surprised for tomorrow. He's just
not happy that his.
You're absolutely right. Actually, I have the volume down. I'm a little tuned out. I'm super bummed I don't have my book in hand, but I'm going to enjoy the hell out of it tomorrow. That's okay. The units I've already looked at. Like we looked at them last week. We got a preview off the internet, so we've kind of seen that. I'm mostly looking forward to diving through the fluff and the stuff you spoiled at me at the beginning of the show there, Jeremy.
Oh, that was just a small, for the record, to make you feel better about that. That was only like a small sliver. I don't know how much he read through. I only read through like a paragraph or two. There's a lot there. Yeah, and like you said, like I mean, when you look at the book, there's only really maybe 10 pages of rules.
Chapter 1, The Age of Myth.
Oh, okay. This is where John just signs off. And there's 96 pages and maybe 10 to 12 that are rules. So it's helpful.
It's what's the word I'm looking for? It's a taste. A taste of what
it's a taste, and I would love for them to just be like, oh hey, we fucked up on this one. Let's completely redo it and balance it out.
This might match my rate of building Age of Sigmar armies. If they actually release an army, maybe 2 or 3 units at a time, give me 6 months to build and paint those units, and then just release another book that maybe takes those 3 and adds 3 more units on it, maybe a 1.5-year cycle to get a whole battle tome out. That could work out well for me. I don't know.
That's good. I agree. We're gonna have to see how this army goes.
So just a minor thought, because you've got me more curious about this. Do you think that we're really going to see a more expanded battle tome, or are we looking more like at the 4 chaos gods of elves?
I think we're gonna have campaigns. Well, I think we were supposed to have a campaign this summer for AoS, and I don't think it came out. But I'm guessing they're going to trickle in like campaign books until next summer, around Thanksgiving starting line. That's what I imagine them doing. And then they're going to release, I think the culmination of the Lumineth book and models will be for Christmas effectively.
That's because if you look at Stormcast, they released a book and then they added, units through like starter boxes, White Dwarf releases, and I forget if there was something else. And then released a new book that compiled all those together again.
So I think that this is their way of creating more Order Army content without. So with Stormcast, you know, they have different chambers, and they have a finite number of chambers, and each time one's open, they're in the story. There's a whole new line of extra Stormcast to add to your roster. So I think that with this, I don't expect it to be something that comes out, and I would be shocked if it comes out in the next year. In the next 6 months. For me, I'm like, okay, minimum 18 months, maximum 36 months. We'll see a new Lumineth Realm Lord battle tome.
I don't think so.
With 5 to 6 new models, and now we have Zenith and River.
No, it's because remember the last campaign book, which was when Archeon found Slaanesh and attempted to free her, figured out that like his corn head can break the chains.
Yeah, I know.
Oh, right. Well, in the Lumineth book, they're basically like, where the fuck are you, Tyrion? Like, come help us. So, like, the campaign is going to progressively turn into Archeon after coming back and beating the shit out of Catacross, and Catacross being like, aha, all part of my master plan.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll be back.
The most DBZ fucking,
goddamn, like, worst. When I said that's a disappointing like storyline.
No, it's super disappointing.
So the point is that like, so Teclis has to go back and like reevaluate, like go find like Tyrion, basically, which is the whole point of like the premise of the book, which is like Tyrion goes to find Teclis, and then now it's like Teclis has to go find Tyrion because they need to prevent Archeon from freeing Slaanesh, which is obviously going to be inevitable. Slaanesh is going to be freed because that's Games Workshop, and they want to continue that like narrative that Chaos is never really defeated, and then eventually we'll see Malerion. So I think it's going to be like rotating. You're going to see Lumineth, and then you'll see, I don't know what they're going to call the Shadow Elves, but they already released a Warcry warband for him, so why not like a regular army for him? There is Shadow Elves in the upcoming Warcry release.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I mean, they've described them as Marathi's assassins, but they're Shadow Elves.
They look a whole hell of a lot like Shadow Elves. Yeah.
So I'm looking at. I think by the end of the year you'll see like another big model and like expansion to Lumineth, because this was supposed to be the year of the elves. Like they said that like last year, right? And when they announced it again this year when they dropped Teclis at LVO, they were like, "This is gonna be the year of the elves." I'm like, "Yeah, this year for elves really sucks if this is literally the only kids we're getting."
I mean, what I found interesting was so the General's Handbook they mentioned was written before Cities of Sigmar. So Cities of Sigmar forward have to be updated via an FAQ. So that means it was written last September. It was gone to print last September, but the Giants and Lumineth are in the General's Handbook. Yes. So that means they knew that these things would be coming out. Giants were supposed to come out before the General's Handbook, but you know,
COVID.
2020 has been a fine year. So.
Okay. Well, real quick, with that too, it's not been a fine year for releases, but it's been a fine year for content. And, we do want to remind people again that us four, we are going to be, transitioning out of the wide world of wargaming. And we are going to be, producing a new media network. It's going to be called In Your Phase. We're going to have podcasts and a lot of other content as well. So we're going to have a few more announcements later on in the next couple of weeks with a lot more information of that. But, we also are, Jeremy and I are going to be on the AoS Rantcast for Mr. Meth. And that's going to be on, Garrett, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but that's Sunday the 26th. Is that right?
Yeah, so Mr. Mephisto, Mr. Meth, he's running a 27-hour charity cast to raise charity for mental health issues, I believe it is. And so he has scheduled Jeremy and Alex to be on 8 a.m. Central, because that's where Mr. Meth is, on Sunday, the 26th of July. The Charity Cast starts at, I believe, noon Central on the 25th and goes until 1 p.m. It starts at 10 a.m. on the 25th and goes till 1 p.m. on the 26th. And so these guys will be slotted in at the 8 a.m. slot on the 26th.
I look forward.
You think of it as a slot, but I actually am thinking that is a celebration of the new In Your Phase podcast, as our last episode will be the Friday before you guys record. And so what you record on Mr. Meth, that'll be the absolute first recording of members of the In Your Phase podcast as In Your Phase.
Yeah,
that's true.
I will somehow have a head full of hair.
You'll be in a business suit.
Yeah, it's like Wild World of Wargaming was sucking all my hair out. No, I'm looking forward to it.
And then Alex is gonna wear country rock T-shirts.
Oh, dude, cut off the sleeves and everything. I have a wicker hat. I'll fucking wear it next episode. I swear to God.
I do hope we eventually sell like little bottles of Alex's salt. You know,
so you got to collect the tiers, and then you got to
amazing.
refine the salt out of the tiers.
No. That's what we're doing. I know there's like a terrarium shop down the street, and it's got like a stuff for like the plants that like don't need soil and stuff like that, the air plants, and they definitely have like tiny little friggin' vials. Oh man.
Get some Jacobin salt put in there. It'd be nice.
Well, we got. You just get a bucket. So what you do is you get a bucket, you collect the tiers, and then you got to go take those tiers and refine the salt out of those tiers, and then you put the salt in the vials, and then you sell the vials full of.
I mean, it's just going to be salt.
Do you know how to refine salt out of tiers?
No, not at all. Not
if
even.
You have a bucket of tiers. You just let it sit there, and eventually it's just a bucket of salt.
You know, it's just like buying bath water from your favorite streamer. You'll find this in OnlyFans.
Okay, you know what? we're done here. No, we're not gonna. Oh man, I forgot about that.
Special engagement for Jeremy only, guys. You can look at it.
Okay, so Jeremy's OnlyFans account is the French Overlord, the French D6 Overlord.
The French D6 Revolution is my.
You'll be able to buy his bathwater.
Yeah, please.
I don't recommend drinking it because we're still in a pandemic. But if you want to,
sealed in a vial for your own safety.
Yeah.
Just let it sit around for 2 weeks, and then you'll.
I recommend using it as I don't know, broth.
I hate this so much. Oh my god. It's very exotic, you guys. It's foreign. It's international.
It's exotic.
It's French.
It's French.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Okay. Well, with that being said, if you guys want to, like and subscribe on Podbean or Facebook or Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts for the Wide World of Wargaming. Again, there's still the 40K and the X-Wing segments that are well up and running, so do be sure to listen in on them as well for some great content. In the meantime, this is going to be Alex, John, Garrett, and Jeremy signing off for the evening.
Yeah.
New phase.
Come watch Alex play on Sunday.
Oh yes, and
you gotta boil the bathwater.
Boil the bathwater.
I'll have the bath ready for him.
Have a good night, everyone.
Bye.